the Mature Workshop, Workers Workshop. I'm Rosanna. I'm one of the employment advisors here to facilitate and provide a presentation on best practices for mature job seekers. Before we get started, if there's a little bit of housekeeping, if you have your phone with you, just make sure it's on silent or turned off. We're going to go about an hour and a half for the presentation, and then we have Shannon, who is our guest speaker from WorkLink here, talking about employer best practices. So we'll be about 3 o'clock in a couple hours. So if you do need to go to the washroom, please go ahead. It's right as you come up the stairs before our office, right in that corridor there. So please go ahead and do that. And yes, I think we're good. Yeah, thanks, Adrian. All right. Okay, so before we get going, definitely I recommend taking notes. There's lots of information, but please know that this isn't our typical full workshop here. This is really just more of a presentation and supporting our community job seekers and mature workers and giving you some tips and strategies on how to be more successful in your job search. So take notes, feel free to ask questions as we move along here. Like I said, my name's Rosanna. I've been with WorkLink for 4 months now, but I've been in the employment training, skills training, career development industry and nonprofit for over 8 years. And I've worked with lots of mature job seekers over the years in different provinces and different regions and different job markets. I myself was a mature job seeker for 7 months until I found this job at WorkLink. So I'm a recent job seeker, mature job seeker. So I can also share with you some tips and strategies that I use, which we will share today in today's presentation. Just up to you. Oops. Oh. You will wait. Yeah. To support you in achieving your goals. So we're all, as mature job seekers, we come with a lot of lived experience as well as work experience. So your skills and experience do matter. And my hope today at the end of the presentation is that you'll see your value and be able to present yourself that way as well. So welcome. Okay. So today we'll talk about the overview of the various generations in our workplaces in the current age, identifying your value and skills for the job market, resume and interview tips, 3 keys to successful job search, and then we'll just summarize and wrap things up. Again, there's a lot of information. This is not everything, but I will do my best to provide examples. And again, if you have questions, please let me know. For those on our virtual space, if you have a question, please raise your hand. Raise your hand feature, and I believe Brianna, you will let me know if there's a question.
Absolutely, yeah.
Awesome, thank you so much. All right, so let's talk about the overview of generations, but also the benefits of age diversity in the workplace. So this video is from the BSI group, and it talks about all the benefits to having all the generations in our workplace in the current age.
Countries all over the world are facing a challenge about what the future demographic of the workplace is going to look like, how they're going to attract and retain younger people into the workforce who are perhaps more interested in moving on in their careers. How are they going to attract older people to stay in the workforce to be productive in the years where perhaps they would be thinking traditionally about retirement?
Today we have got different populations in the business, all the way from baby boomers to Generation X, all the way to Gen Z.
The multi-generational workforce requires us to rethink, re-strategize how we do work, what we want that to work to look like, and really how it's done. The aspect of virtual and different time zones we're going beyond that. The other thing which is interesting about the new workforce is the country barriers are decreasing and continuing to decrease. We have to rethink about how we use that to our advantage for the people that work for us, all of our colleagues.
Diversity and inclusivity is a really important part of that. Age diversity, being able to recognize and support companies to retain and attract, to manage older people as well as the younger generation.
There are differences in the multi-generations that are really attractive in how we create benefits. And what really is a benefit and how we define that can be changed with the multi-generational and the multicultural differences in our workforces.
It's an absolute opportunity to bring those generations together, have different viewpoints, have different way of tackling it. The more diversity you have, I think the more opportunity you have to solve problems in a different fashion and different manner.
Okay. So that was just a brief introduction about the benefits, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth. So from what you captured from that video, and those that are online or virtual can also answer maybe in the chat, but what do you think about age diversity in the workplace? Do you think it's a positive thing? Do you think it's a negative thing? Do you have an experience with that? Do you think there's some benefits or not? Whatever your initial thoughts are, would like to go. Yes?
I think it depends on the individuals that you are working.
Depends on the individuals you're working with. Absolutely. Absolutely. It is definitely culture, work culture by work culture. Absolutely. Thank you. Any other thoughts about age diversity?
I think it's a good thing, but I also, like, it depends, I guess, because sometimes you hear that, like younger people are cheaper. I guess it depends, right? If it's more of a knowledge economy or more of a manual, right?
Mhm.
I guess it depends.
That's right. So it depends on like maybe the industry itself and what type of work it is. Depends. It could be positive or negative. Yeah. Thank you. Good point.
Differences in technology and
Yeah.
levels of physical fitness.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, technology is a very vast and diverse skill set in itself. So it depends on what the organization needs and what the workforce can provide and diversity there. So it could be a positive having diverse skill sets, but also could be a negative. Let's see if there's anyone online, Brianna.
No comments right
No
now.
comments? Okay. Thank you. All right. Okay, so it really overall workplaces are moving towards diversity, inclusion, and equity. I think most of us can see that or heard of that. Whether it's how well it's being implemented is another story. And there's definitely lots of room for improvement, but there's more awareness around diversity in the workplace. So right now we have 4 generations in today's workplace. So baby boomers, born between 1946 and 1964. Generation X, born between 1965 and 1980. Generation Y, also known as millennials, born between 1981 and 1996. And Generation Z, what is that? Also known as iGen, which that was kind of a new term for me that I learned about. So iGen, so basically all digital. They're the digital generation, born between 1997 and 2012. So most of the workforce is between these 2 generations, but we are starting to see some of the older iGens coming in, and we do have baby boomers either staying in the workforce or have left the workforce and coming back, and we'll talk about that as well. So lots of different perspectives, experiences, and lots of diversity there, lots of opportunity to learn from each other. So here are potentially some of the reasons why there's so much diversity and so many generations in the workplace. Well, people are healthier generally and living longer, as we can see here. In today's day and age with medical advancements, people are living longer. Mature workers potentially are choosing to work longer because they either want to or they have to, financially to support themselves. Some members of older generations are financially supporting younger generations. So you may be a mature job seeker and you may have adult children that may have to move back home because they're also having a hard time, because also the younger generation's having a hard time finding work as well. So maybe you're supporting some younger generations. Also, with for mature workers with your vast knowledge, experience, lived and work experience, you may be doing side hustles, contract work, consulting work, which also helps you to be part of the labor market, share your skills and knowledge, but also could be a financial need too. So if you've been thinking about or have been doing any consulting work, that's very common for mature job seekers. Or maybe it's a supplement to what you're already doing. So just a little bit more based on what the video topic, some more benefits of age-diverse workplace. Well, higher productivity. So basically with all these different skills and knowledges, and different energy levels and drive, you can definitely potentially see higher productivity in the workplace. Impactful problem solving and decision making. So again, with all the different perspectives, experiences, there can be real impactful problem solving to really complex problems and projects. It can drive innovation. So if we have millennials are really known for driving innovation in the workplace right now, kind of breaking barriers a little bit, kind of breaking down the norms. So they're maybe part of what's driving change in the workplace, but maybe innovation and technology, introducing technology especially. Wider range of knowledge and experiences, intergenerational mentorship. So as a mature job seeker, this could be a real benefit that you can offer in the workplace. So a lot of job seekers, mature job seekers that I've worked with in the past and currently, they come to me as their employment advisor and they say, Rosanna, I'm not really here to grow my career. I just want to find work that I can find purpose and meaning and give back. I've heard that a lot. And honestly, that's where I was as well. I was a manager at my last job, and I felt like, yeah, that was a good opportunity to share leadership and support a team. But I really, really missed that one-to-one with clients. I missed seeing that difference, right? Making that difference. And so I chose to go back to, I guess, lower than a manager, but still, I was driven by meaning and purpose, not necessarily growing in my career. So that could be one thing. It's what can you do to provide more meaning and purpose? Is you can maybe do some mentorship within the workplace, which is super helpful for the younger generations. We talked about different perspectives and points of view. It can also promote cultural adaptability in the workplace. Yeah. So what do you think that means? I saw some nodding heads. What does that mean, being culturally adaptable?
Well, I think that the culture adaptability it's related also with the cultural diversification, especially in a country like Canada.
Mm-hmm.
But in the cultural adaptability, I would understand that the ethics and the habits of the individuals, as I said before.
Mm-hmm.
The works that I have here so far now, I face that. Different people, different ages,
Mm-hmm.
different qualities, different ethics, good, bad,
Yeah.
middle. But if you don't adapt yourself, there's no way you can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely nothing. You have no chance to do it. Even if you're working with something inanimate. I don't like that word. Hello, I'm rush work.
Yeah, like entry level work compared
Yeah,
to
you need cultural intelligence as well as cultural adaptability. It's not easy to get some exercise. It's not easy to get.
That's right. Absolutely. So it can promote it, but there's work to be done around building more adaptability, culture-wise, not just background experiences, but habits, personality. So every generation has different habits and different environments that we've grown up in. So everybody comes with that lived experience. Cultural adaptability really is about having to adapt to different personalities, like you said. And if you have a hard time doing that, that could be a challenge to either finding a job or keeping a job as well. It's much more significant now to be more adaptable. Any other thoughts about cultural adaptability, what that means as far as age diversity?
Well, I guess like each of those generations have, yeah, as you said, culture. Like there's some like stereotypes, how they behave, how they are, especially in the workplace. And I guess if there is a team with different team members from different generations, they kind of have to work together, right? So the culture of specific to a age group and adaptability working together.
Yeah.
That's generally good because everyone brings something else. This one is not better than the other, but it's just, yeah,
Absolutely.
together.
Absolutely. And I don't know about you, but teamwork is very high demand skill for all jobs. It doesn't matter what job you go into. So it's really important. And the reason why I really highlight cultural adaptability, because there could be a tendency for mature workers, not all mature workers, to kind of be stuck with one way of doing things, right? Because we do have that experience. We feel like we are, in a sense, knowledge keepers, right? We do have a lot of knowledge that we can share, but there's so many, what you were saying here, traits, attributes, ethics, generational perspective that we need to consider to be successful. Great. Thank you so much. Great feedback. Ultimately, if cultural adaptability works well and you're able to really express all of these benefits with what your skills and experience are, there could be a higher sense of community and connection, which is such an important value, intrinsic value that a lot of mature job seekers seek, desire, and really want in their job. They want to feel like they belong. They want to feel like they have purpose again. So a lot of companies are recognizing the value of age diversity and are more willing to hire mature workers for their experience. One of the barriers to mature workers finding employment is they just don't know the best practices. What is the current best practice for a good resume? What's an ATS system? What is tailoring a resume? How do we answer questions in an interview? The way to present ourselves. So we'll talk about that today. Yes.
What is ATS?
What is ATS? Automated
search for
keywords. Applicant tracking system. So that's the thing, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Is that with technology and introduction of AI and the quick adoption of AI, there are a lot more automated processes when you're applying for jobs. And as mature job seekers, we're not used to this. A lot of us are used to going in person, giving a resume, or somebody seeing your qualifications, talking to you. That's still out there, but there's definitely technology plays a factor. So we'll talk a little bit. Great question. Yeah. And by the way, our workshops here, if you become a client of ours here, a case managed client, we do workshops on resumes and career planning and interview skills as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that later. Yes. So Before we go into those best practices, I think it's important to talk about the myths of mature workers. So, and this could be what some biases you have as well as others may have in the workplace. Or when we say myths, sometimes they're just perceptions or assumptions. So there could be a myth that younger workers may see you as a threat. Um, Maybe there's a myth that mature workers don't have drive or energy. I just want to say though that you definitely can have drive or energy, but it may be for a different purpose. Rather than growing in your career, you may have the drive and energy to contribute. Just to give you an example. Another myth is mature workers have difficulty working with younger managers. I've heard that one quite a bit. And they're not open to change at all. They're stuck in their ways. And this is what again, these are myths, right? That mature workers are maybe prone to illness. They have a chip on their shoulder. And they're not really open to learning new things or lack technology skills. Some of these could be true for you, but that could be true for any generation. But definitely, I would say lacking technology skills is one of the main challenges when I hear about when working with mature workers. But there's lots of ways, lots of opportunities to upskill and learn those technologies. Okay. So identifying your value and your skills. So in order to be able to be successful in the job market, to write a successful resume, get that interview, you really need to understand what your value and what your skills are so you know how to communicate them. So this is why we're starting here. So what value do mature workers bring to the workplace? Well, mature workers are definitely more goal-oriented and open to new learning. So that myth about not willing to learn is not true. I'll go this way, strong work ethic. Absolutely. Especially, boomers and Gen X, we know how to work. We work. That's what we do since we were very young, right? We work. We can demonstrate loyalty, commitment, because we understand what it takes to be resilient, to be patient with the processes. We truly want to support organizations and teams, and we demonstrate that loyalty and commitment very well. As mentioned earlier, the ability to mentor younger generations and share knowledge. Mature workers tend to have developed interpersonal skills, including conflict resolution and higher emotional intelligence. So when those really challenging conversations have to happen, mature workers sometimes have leadership skills or experience, managing staff, even having children, and there maybe have children that have been teenagers, they know how to do this well, most of them, and they can really bring that to the workplace. And just because you have the experience, you already have that developed. And mature workers tend to be more independent and self-sufficient. So would you agree? You agree with most of these about yourself? Can you see yourself in most of these? Yeah. Oh, it's always room for growth, but these are foundational, fundamental benefits and value. Okay. So those are general values that a mature worker can bring, but how can you assess your value? How can you break down your value so you can market and communicate your skills and value? Well, the first thing we recommend is doing a skills inventory. Make a list of your hard, soft, and transferable skills. So, by the way, has anybody heard of hard, soft, transferable skills? Yeah, a couple nods here. I will talk about what those mean in a moment, but really, it's really important to identify all the skills that you have. So from your work experience, especially, and know what your strengths are. Another thing mature workers can do to assess your value is do an accomplishment review. Think back in your work history, especially on your top career or work accomplishments. What are you most proud of achieving and why? Think about maybe your top three, because it's really important to talk about that in your resume, your cover letters, your interviews, and really acknowledge your accomplishments, even if it's from 20 years ago. It's still, if that is meaningful for you as an accomplishment, it's still worth sharing. Collect feedback. Ask former coworkers, family, friends to provide you with what they see are your strengths and maybe what you need to improve on. So yes, mature workers, we need to swallow our pride a little bit with that one and just ask for honest feedback, because sometimes we can't see in ourselves what others can see, especially if it's a trusted coworker, family, or friend. They want to see you successful. So maybe if there's something of strength that you didn't even think about, but also what to improve on. This could also help you have that genuine conversation in interviews. If an employer asks you, what is your weakness, right? Or what do you need to improve on? Then you can give a genuine answer. So these are the skills I was talking about, and just a brief description about each. So hard skills are knowledge often gained through education or specific training. They're measurable and often related to a specific job. So can anyone give an example of hard skills?
Computer programs,
Yeah, computer programs. Yeah,
education certificate.
yeah. Education. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Anything else? I'm just going to switch my pen here.
Making technical.
Technical, yeah. Technical skills, absolutely. Skills.
Specialty, statistics, or
Yeah, the job specific
yeah.
more so.
Although I mean, you could also argue it's transferable, but
Yeah, right, exactly. I think like this kind of goes with technical skills, but can be like software, right? Specific software in one industry that they use to manage like a project management software, something like that. Okay, that's good. What about soft skills? So soft skills are personality traits and attributes that you have developed through life and work experience. What do you think? Examples?
dependable, hardworking.
Mm-hmm. Driven, yeah. Ambitious, yeah.
Committed.
Committed, yeah. These are very mature worker answers. By the way, I know we just talked about them too. Anybody else have an idea? Soft skills?
Teamwork or
Yeah, teamwork.
leadership skills.
Mm. Yes. That's a good one. Leadership. Even if you've never been in a leadership role, mature workers tend to have a lot more of those innate kind of leadership skills that can be very valuable. So go to transferable skills, and sometimes these can actually go together at some points, but these are skills that are foundational. Yet, and every job you need these foundational skills to be successful.
Analytical skill.
People skills.
Yes. So that's great. If you notice in job postings, they call it interpersonal skills or ability to build professional relationships. And so that's definitely a transferable skill.
Project management.
Project management. I would say that's more a hard skill. Because that's more specific to a certain type of role. But if you think about the skills within each of those, within project management, what are those skills? Somebody's effectively managing a project. What specific skills are they using to manage that project?
Time management.
Management. Yeah. Management. Also, like sometimes like organizational management, so time being organized.
No, I've gotten burned by time management. The crunches on how do you prioritize your tasks?
Mm-hmm.
Question.
And that is such a common question in interviews for so many jobs, because that's why it makes it transferable. Because a lot of employers will ask that question. It's a tricky one. So time management, interpersonal skills, analytical. This also can talk about problem solving. That's also transferable. About communication. It kind of goes with interpersonal, but verbal and written are extremely important to demonstrate. And also it's used in every job in every industry. If you don't have effective communication, it's going to be challenging. Yeah. And not to say, I know some workplaces don't have effective communication. You can see that breakdown too. Anything else?
The way you delegate responsibilities.
Delegation. So like leadership?
Not really. Let's say that you are a manager, or even if you are not, but you are teaching someone, or you are telling someone, you have to identify who is better for teaching, who is better for doing people tasks, who find the values and the best skills of individuals in order to cooperate together better.
Right. Yeah, so I would say problem solve, assessing, problem solving. But you said another word. Sorry, what was it? Delegation. Yeah. Even if you're not a leader, even if you're not a leader, and if you have a large workload, how are you going to delegate? How are you going to make sure your job gets done? Right. So delegation can be a transferable skills. Like you know how to work within your workload to delegate if you need to. You get support, right? So make sure the project gets done, the task gets done. This is a great list, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm not sure, Brianna, I just want to check in with you for the folks online. Is there any comments there?
I don't see any comments or raised hands.
Okay. All right. There's many more to the soft skills and transferable skills, but this is really what we're going to focus on is looking at those transferable skills. So digital skills are now considered transferable. So some basic skills, I would say more so Microsoft Word, Excel, Google Suite, even at some level AI would be like a transferable skill. So some digital, not all, but some digital. Basic computer literacy is an absolute. That is something that is not trained. You don't get that training on the job. You are expected to come with basic computer literacy.
But isn't it these days like kind of a given? I would not think about putting it on my resume. I'm thinking like everyone else. But I maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Definitely, if a job posting is asking for proficiency in, for instance, Microsoft 365, which is, I see that a lot in job postings, you want to add that to your resume. Not everybody has worked within Microsoft 365, but if you have, add that in there. Sometimes you'll see Google Suite. If it's a hybrid or remote role, you'll see Zoom or MS Teams. So if you have any of those things, those are transferable skills. So many organizations use this technology and software. Not everyone, but you want to add it on there. Typing 50 words a minute, that used to be what we used to write. I don't know if you remember that on our resumes. I could. That's what jobs were asking for. Some of them are still, but very few. I don't see it very often. That's expected that you have good typing skills.
But then I would say like I wouldn't put the computer literacy, but I would something more specific than that, right?
More specific, such as
exactly
these examples, exactly. So if you have digital skills, HTML coding, they've ever done programming or websites before, you can do that. Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, those are all very common. Social media analytics. So again, depending on the job you're applying for, that would be considered a digital skill. Knowledge of SEO techniques, so search engine optimization. If you have that, again, depending on, these are just examples of different industries. So some of these are more industry specific. However, proficiency in Microsoft Office or Google Suite is kind of across the board. So it'd be more of a transferable skill. So I shared a tip here at the bottom of the slide. So if there is a job or industry you're really interested in getting into, and you have some of these things or you have the basics, but maybe you're missing knowledge of SEO techniques, and that's what they're asking for, research micro-credential courses. Because micro-credential are small courses, short-term courses to fill any digital technology gaps. I don't know if I have that on my next slide. Yes, I have it right here. So here are a few resources that you can access to research some micro-credential training. YouTube channels. I've taught myself a lot of things watching YouTube, as some of us do. And it's no cost and you can do it at your own time. LinkedIn Learning is another great resource. They have thousands of courses and topics on every single topic you can imagine. Typically, LinkedIn Learning is a paid subscription. You do need to have a LinkedIn profile. However, you can access LinkedIn Learning for no cost with a library card. So if you have, you can get a free library card, a public library card, and you can actually access and log in through your card, and then you get access, maybe not to the whole library, but you get access to a lot of courses for no cost. Oh, sure, yeah.
LinkedIn has some free courses as well, like even without the card.
That's right.
But it's good to know that it's.
Yeah. Oh, just the no cost option. You don't have to use a library card but you have to pay for it if you don't access it through a library card. It's a paid subscription.
Oh, it's a paid subscription on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
So
but if you
can get it through the library.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yep. You're welcome. Coursera. I don't know if anybody's heard of Coursera. That's also very common. Lots of courses on there for free, low cost. You maybe can look there. MOOC, I'm not as familiar with MOOC to be honest, but that is another list of courses that you can access for low cost or for free. So there's a lot of options as far as upskilling your technical skills, which I highly recommend because it again, it's a transferable skill, especially if you need to learn some more, better computer literacy skills. Microsoft is always a good one to look into. 365 is very common, and you can do those on your own. And it doesn't mean you have to join a full course to do that, and that does help on your resume. Those certifications. As a case managed client through WorkBC and WorkLink, we also have short-term occupational certificates available for clients such as WMIS, First Aid, Food Safe, Serving It Right. And those are for entry-level jobs in hospitality, labor, construction as well. So there's ways to access these certificates that can really enhance your resume and help you really fill those gaps. Employers really appreciate seeing certifications and education upgraded on your resume, recent. It not only shows that you have those skills, but also shows the willingness to learn, to upskill, to grow. And so that's really, really common. Okay, I think we're going to go to this one. Okay. So here are some resources here, how you can assess your own skills a little bit further. So the Government of Canada, that's the link there. You can definitely write it down, but you can also just Google search Government of Canada or search engine assessing your skills. And also WorkBC, our WorkBC site. Career Compass is another great resource to assess your skills. So sometimes you can do a skills assessment and know some of your skills, talk to people, but sometimes it's really good to do these assessments for yourself so you can identify what your strengths are. Okay. You have a question?
I just wondered if those last two.
A lot of yeah. So I don't actually have the handout with me, but if you type in, if you search Government Canada, assess your skills, it'll take you to this link. Also with the WorkBC Work Compass, it'll take you to that site. Yeah, thank you. Okay. So we talked about that. All right. Okay, so let's go through some more specific resume and interview tips.
Sorry.
Yeah.
For example, something that I might say, yeah. Usually, it's you get frequently that an asset is, for example, the first aid certification.
Mm-hmm.
If I understood well, WorkBC offers that.
So if you choose to be a client of ours, that could be potentially something that we can support with as far as those entry-level certifications like first aid. Yeah, which is very applicable to many entry-level jobs, right? So yes, yeah, but you have to be a client of ours and talk to an employment advisor. So at the end, I'll talk about next steps and if that's of interest to you, and I'll share with you this process. Great question. Yeah, thank you. All right. Okay. So resume tips. Yes, an outdated resume can age you. I do want to touch on this a little bit without diving deep into it, but ageism is real. It's out there, but it's not everywhere. Okay, so the idea of a resume is to help to shine your skills and abilities and to reduce any potential red flags for the employer. So when we say a resume can really age you, it doesn't mean it's a bad thing to show your age. It just really means that if you are sharing a resume that has outdated formatting or sections, employers can tell, right? There's definitely a better way to show your experience and skills. And most importantly, over 90% of employers are using the applicant tracking system. So that's where I said that earlier. And using an applicant tracking or ATS friendly resume format will help you get through that computerized system. So basically, an ATS system is a computerized hiring system where companies will add keywords and phrases to computer generated screening. And when applications go through the system, the computerized system will pick out those resumes with those keywords and phrases based on the job posting. So if you're not tailoring your resume to the job posting and adding keywords in the job posting, you may be the most skilled or qualified candidate, but unfortunately your resume may be rejected by the ATS system for not having enough of those keywords and phrases. And then your resume is not even seen by a recruiter. So that's what's happening a lot right now because of the competitive job market. Employers, hiring managers are seeing hundreds of resumes come through. They need a more efficient way to screen. So it's a screening tool. So if you decide to become a case managed client of ours and you can attend our workshops and resumes, we'll talk more about what that looks like, an ATS friendly resume. But basically, that's what's happening in hiring processes right now. It's very different. ATSs have been around a long time, but in the last 5 years, probably, it's gone up significantly as far as usage. So that's why it's really important to tailor your resumes to capture those keywords and phrases. And really, you see the keywords and phrases are really all through the job posting, but more so through the qualifications. So when you see key qualifications or required qualifications, if you have some of those qualifications, you want to add that to your resume and your cover letter. Another area where potentially you can show your age through a resume is if you have an outdated or unprofessional email. Okay, so and that actually goes with any age. It's not just for mature job seekers. I share this tip with all my job seeker clients. Gmail and Outlook email addresses are most common and seen as the most professional. Not to say if you have Hotmail or Yahoo, it is not. But again, your resume is like your first impression. It's like the first few seconds when you meet somebody, you get that initial impression. You want to always make the best impression as possible. And absolutely a professional email is really important. Typically employers, are saying, just your first and last name, at Gmail, that way also it's easier for them to reach out to you if they want to send you an email for an interview. And it's your first and last name, Gmail. It's easy. If you have underscores and slashes and it's like all these characters, it could be a challenge, right? They could misspell it. And if you can match your first and last name to the resume, first and last name, it makes it easier for them. Make it as easy as possible for them to reach out to you.
I would also say every now and then you see, I don't know, pussycat77 at Gmail, like they don't use that.
Yes, exactly. First and last name is totally fine. Yeah. It's to keep it simple is always the best way to go.
Yeah, maybe even like I've seen like every now and then people ask me to help them with resume, like friends mostly. And I think our generation, so the Generation X, they tend to make it way too long.
Right.
Like that was like 4 pages. Like that could be, but who has patience to read it, right?
Right.
And that also doesn't come across as very professional. So
Yeah,
too long, right? Like 2 pages. It's typically 2 pages. That's it.
yes, 2-page resumes are ideal. Thank you for sharing that because I don't think I highlighted that here. And it's challenging when you have so much experience. How do you bring it to 2 pages? So there's ways to do that. There's resources out there. There's free templates online. If you become a client of ours, you know, your employment advisor can share with you strategies. Just be willing to talk about what's most relevant and current. And it doesn't take away your experience. It doesn't take away all the work he's done, right? It doesn't devalue you by streamlining your resume because you can always talk about more about it, what your experience is in an interview. The goal of a resume is to what? What's the goal of it?
Comes through the first round.
Yeah, what is it? Okay.
From shortlist.
Even before that,
Sell yourself.
if you sell yourself well, what do you hope will happen? Interview.
Oh, right.
So that's the goal of the resume, right? So, and a lot of job seekers, not just mature job seekers, but all job seekers forget that, right? And this is your marketing document, and the goal is, okay, how can I present myself the best? Get through the ATS system, show that I can do this job, so I can get that first interview, right? And that could just be even a phone screening, right? That's what's happening a lot right now. It can just be a quick 20-minute screening. So first contact with employer, right? That's the goal. So a lot of mature job seekers that I've worked with over the years, they take it too personal when I share with them the feedback of what to do with their resume to make it more ATS friendly or to make it more current and relevant, to remove some of their work experience and education. Because I'm thinking of this goal for them. This is the goal. How can we present you in the best possible way? And they're thinking, well, I worked really hard for all of this experience. I don't want to exclude it, but you can talk about that in an interview, right? But the point is to get yourself that interview. So one thing on a resume that doesn't help you get that interview is talking about your objective in the resume. So an objective is what that means. It's what you want, you know, and that used to be very common. I'm looking for a full-time position in sales and customer service so I can meet my professional goals. That was very common, but an employer is going to just skim right by it. I'm not even going to read it. Be like, well, what can you offer me? What can you offer in this role? So it's really important to use your resume and think of your resume as prime real estate. It's like you want to, I don't know if anybody's here in real estate or investing in property, you want to stage it, you want to make sure you highlight the best parts of it, of yourself, right? And so every part of your resume, every white space is prime real estate. So you want to make sure every part has something that you can offer them. So instead, I suggest that you use a profile statement or professional summary is also another way, another section heading that highlights your experience and skills, and that is directly related to the job. So tailoring your resume, this is part of it, even that summary. So here's an example here. And feel free to take a screenshot if you like with your phone. I know I said put your phone away, but if you want an example of that. So an example of what a good profile statement includes highlights of your experience and skills, but also results. Employers want to see and read what have you done, what actions have you taken, and what results did you create out of those actions? So this example says results-driven customer service and sales professional with 10 years experience in fast-paced retail and sales environments, excellent communicator who excels in uncovering customer needs, providing client-focused solutions, and excelling at building long-standing professional client relationships. Proven record of increase in sales and client base by 25%. So when an employer looks at this summary, employers can see exactly what you've done, no question, and what you're applying for. If you make your summary or skills section profile statement too vague, the employer may not understand what your skills are, what your industry background is. Even if it's not related to the job you're applying for, there's a lot of those transferable skills you can talk about, but make it tailored to the job posting. And put in an accomplishment, right? We really do undervalue our accomplishments. And if you don't have an exact percentage or number, a good guess is okay. But if you don't feel comfortable sharing a number, that's fine. But you really want to really tailor it and highlight your experience, your industry experiences. All right. So other tips here, try not to go back more than 10 years in your work experience. Your previous 3 experiences, typically 3 is a good number to put on your resume and your work experience. Even if you have experience in that job over 10 years ago, in this day and age where skills change, learning, we're expected to learn and keep ourselves upgraded. If you haven't done something to upgrade those skills, it may not be looked at as relevant because it's over 10 years old, especially if there's any technology that you still do used to use more than 10 years ago. A lot of it's outdated, right? It wouldn't be relevant now. But definitely include any irrelevant or recent digital computer and technology skills. When I say recent, I mean what's in demand in the market. Or you really want to align with that. Absolutely include volunteer experience. Volunteer and education experience matter. However, exclude hobbies. Again, it's you can talk about that in an interview, right? You can talk about a little bit, be more personable in an interview. And definitely do not include references available upon request. Remember, your resume is like prime real estate. You only want to add on there what's relevant, what will be impactful. And it's just known employers don't need to know that because they will ask you for references if they request it. So you don't need to add it on there. That was very a common practice a long time ago. Oh, I wanted to pose this question to the group. What do you think? Should you include your graduation dates for education? That's always a common question I get from my mature job seeker clients is, do I put my education dates?
It's not anymore.
They're not. Maybe not.
And now watch me squirm. I
Right?
mean, yes, I did graduate, but it was, excuse the phrasing, eons ago.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe not. Some trepidation there.
What's the protocol? I mean, it's if you're on LinkedIn, they're gonna see it.
That's right. It actually is no one way to think about it because we don't really know. Like I've heard many different perspectives on it. Add it because it shows consistency in your resume because everything else has dates, and then also you don't put a date there. If you don't put a date, will the employer question why you didn't put a date? They'll assume that it's eons ago education. If you put a date, could that involve ageism? They could go either way. We have no idea. Yeah, what do you think?
Like I had to, despite having a resume, I had to like retype everything in some kind of questionnaire, and they do ask for dates. So
They might ask anyway.
yeah, I had it like several times that I had to like copy and paste from my thing, and they did ask for specifically for dates of graduation.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. If they're asking, there's some relevance for them, but it doesn't mean it's a deal breaker. It doesn't mean a deal breaker. Yeah, I would say use your own discretion. I know it's like, there's not one way to do this. And, every career coach and employment advisor says it's different things. I personally think formatting and consistency in a resume is really important. So if you leave it out, it looks inconsistent with the other dates. So I recommend to put it on there because then it looks the same. And also, it could screen out employers, right? Again, you never know if it's ageism, if you're not getting the responses, but if you do get an interview, that they're potentially more open to a diverse workforce. Okay, yeah, go ahead. Good question. But did you put your hand up? No. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you did. So use your own discretion. It's one of those things where whatever you're comfortable with. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to run through this a little bit quicker, and not too quickly, and then we'll have time for some questions. So those are resume tips. Now here are some interview tips. Really important. Don't just talk, demonstrate. It's very easy for especially mature job seekers to really tell your story in a very vivid and detailed way. That's long because we have so much experience and so much knowledge. But it's really important to understand employers. They need to understand how you demonstrated your skills through sharing your experiences, but there's a way to do this. So preparation is really key. Even as a mature job seeker, sometimes we don't prepare. Oh, I know the job. I don't need to prepare. I actually had a client recently say, oh, I've done this job so many times. Why do I need to prepare? Well, they're still unemployed, right? So the goal of the resume is to get you that interview or that first contact. And then once you get that interview, it's up to you to prepare. So carefully read the job posting, research the company, practice answering commonly asked questions. Most of the interview questions, not to say in every industry and every job, are behavioral or situational type questions. Does anybody know what that means? Give an example. No, too much. Yeah. Yeah.
I know the STAR method.
Yep.
So it's like describe the situation, and then task at hand. So that's T. A is action, what did you do?
Mm-hmm.
And R is what was the result.
Exactly.
So yeah, kind of walk through that.
Mm-hmm. It's a framework to answer the questions.
Yeah.
So the card method is a more streamlined version of that, but it's the same idea. And I'll talk about that in the next slide. But behavioral or situational questions sound like this. Describe a time, I'm going to use a little bit of your example, a time where you had to juggle multiple tasks and with competing deadlines, because they're really trying to assess time management. And so those are very common questions. So describe a time, what would you do with, how did you handle that? Because that's how the employer will be able to assess your skills and know if you can do the job. So a great way, so before I go to the card method, interviews absolutely know if a candidate they are interviewing has not prepared enough or at all. The answers tend to be very vague. There's a lot of pausing, if you had to think about it a lot. This absolutely can be a deal breaker. Even if you know the role, know the industry inside and out, preparation is key.
I think there is actually a book. I have only like electronic version, and it's the the 15 most common interview questions, and everything is like that. Describe the time when.
That's right. Yeah.
So
Very common.
yeah, I think that in the end, the questions are very often the same, right? Because you can only come up with so many questions as an employer. So
Exactly. And sometimes they are specific to the job itself.
yeah,
They'll even give you, like, if it's a customer service job, what would you do if you had one of our clients call and they wanted to end their service with us? How would you handle that? So it really is, those questions are really geared, the employer is trying to assess all of your skills, right? And if you can do the job. So preparing by, reading those questions, preparing by answering those questions would be a very good idea, and practicing communicating them. So a really good way to actually answer those type of questions is using the STAR method or the CAR method, which CAR stands for challenge, action, and result. So when asking interview questions, employers are looking to hear how you solve problems, worked in a team, basically got the job done. Answering their questions using the CAR method, you'll be able to demonstrate your skills in real work experiences. So they can start to see and visualize and connect you with the job. Because remember, they're trying to find their best fit, right? And so by answering questions using the CAR method, they can assess if you are the right fit and you have the skills, and it really helps you stand out amongst the crowd.
So sorry, action results. What's the
Challenge. So what is the challenge? So what is the challenge that you had to deal with basically in that experience? What are the actions you took? And what was the result? So it's very succinct. It's like a few sentences, right? 3 to 5 sentences. You don't have to rush through when you're answering the question, but be very succinct and very clear. Because mature job seekers tend to share too much of, this is what's going on, and that's what's happening with the organization. They were doing this. And again, because sometimes we've had some really challenging circumstances we've had to work with, right? And over the years, that kind of builds up a little bit in our minds. But it really is important to answer the question, keep it short and keep it succinct, and just share what your value is. This is how you share your value and how you can do the job. So the challenge could be, I should mention, as that you face in your role or with the organization, or the organization had a challenge. Like, for instance, I don't know why I'm thinking of this, but when Rogers had that cybersecurity breach, I think a couple of years ago, if you were working in that, you maybe want to talk about that. The company had this happen and my role was this. These are the actions I needed to take, and this was the result. If you can think of a scenario or an example where it was a positive result, like you contributed to the company's success, profit, reduced time, helped the team, all those good things, great. But you can also talk about maybe an experience or an example where maybe the result wasn't favorable, but you tried. It's like, this is what we did, but our team didn't complete the project on time. If you have something like that you want to share, it's a good idea to share what you learned. So, okay, even though I wasn't successful with completing this task, this is what I learned and this is what I would do differently. So experiences can be, you can share your experiences and demonstrate your skills, but demonstrating your ability to learn and grow through failure is quite unique and could really help you stand out. So don't be afraid, demonstrate what you did through failure, because everybody's experience, like, it's a human nature experience, right? And it can actually really help you stand out and make you more personable, vulnerable, but also could highlight that you're willing to learn and grow. So don't be afraid to share those failures as well as successes. Okay, so that's the CAR method. I do have an example here. Great. Okay. So that was the example I shared. Share a time when you had to prioritize multiple tasks, tight deadlines. So this is an example. The challenge was for this person, in my previous role as a coordinator, I was assigned 2 critical tasks with overlapping deadlines. The first was to complete a detailed client report. The second was to prepare a presentation for upcoming executive meeting, both due by the end of the week. So that was a challenge. So it's clear what the challenge was. There was 2 competing deadlines and what they were. The action that this person took to manage this, I first created a detailed schedule assigning specific time blocks for each task. I broke down the report into smaller sections, ensuring I completed a portion each day. I also made sure to work on the presentation during dedicated blocks in the afternoon, minimizing interruptions to maintain focus. So the action, you can see, it's actually very specific steps, okay? And the result, this plan resulted in my ability to complete both tasks on time. So it could be a simple result. Yeah, I was able to do that. But this is what, more than the result, this is what the employer is really looking at. What actions did you take? That shows so many skills, and that without saying, bless you, without saying you have these skills. That's what we mean by demonstrating skills. It's not enough anymore to say I'm dependable and good time management. Well, how did you do that? Yeah.
And you don't have to be specific.
No. No, that's a very good specific, that's specific enough, very simple
You don't have
example.
to say clients reported such and such
Yeah,
critical task.
no,
Such.
yeah, I would say, keep it simple. If there's 2 tasks here, client report and a presentation. That's all the employer needs to know. They don't need to know all the details of those tasks. They might ask, but you don't have to. No, this is a very succinct way to answer a behavioral situational question. Yes, go ahead. Yeah. And again, if you become a case managed client with us, all our workshops talk way more in detail. We have activities and how to practice, how to write out these statements. They're also called accomplishment statements in a resume, but you can definitely talk about them in interviews. Okay, this is a really great framework to use when you're answering questions. So step 2, so that's preparing. Step 2, during the interview, make a great first impression. If the interview is in person or online, meaning arrive 5 to 10 minutes early, dress professional, make eye contact, smile. So your non-verbal is just as important as your verbal, even an online interview. Especially if it's online, if there's some technical aspects and links, you may want to check your technical system, make sure everything's working okay so you're not late. Definitely silence your phone, or even better, put it away. I've been to interviews as a manager before, and I could see that person's phone on the table. I would say just put it away. Even if it's upside down, it still can be kind of distracting. And try not to speak negatively, or don't speak negatively about past employers. Share what you've learned instead. It's so easy for us to go into, because that's how our mind works, right? Oh, this happened because, but you don't have to overshare, limit the details, but more importantly, share how you grew and what you learned from there. We always learn from our situations. If it's in person, recommend bringing extra copies of your resume. It shows initiative. It shows, if you have an extra copy, and if the HR person who's ever interviewing you maybe would like one if they don't have one. Typically they do, but it just shows really professionalism and
Is that because they would have just looked at it online?
That could be, exactly, yeah. In my experience, I've seen them, they always bring a copy in person, like a physical copy, but maybe they forgot it. And if you have one, that's a great impression. It's like, oh, I have one. Here you go. Don't worry. And demonstrate your skills by using the CAR method. Really important. Talk about your value, the value your work and life experience brings to the role and the company. And at the end of an interview, always ask at least 3 questions. There's lots of questions you can ask, lots of online, you can look for online. but it really does show enthusiasm for the role, that you're interested in the role and the company. So maybe ask questions about the role, but also about the company too. Because you want to interview them too. And that's a great opportunity to get to know them a little bit more. All right. Just waiting. Is waiting. Good. All right. Okay. Last step 3. So this is where a lot of job seekers of all ages miss the step here, and they're missing a great opportunity here. Always send a thank you note within 24 hours after the interview. So at the end of the interview, and typically you would have whoever's interviewing, you would have their email ready. But if you don't, you can definitely ask for their email at the end of the interview and then send them a message. It's a simple thank you note. Thank you for the opportunity. I learned so much about the company, specifically this. Say something specific that stood out for you in the interview. And that always helps for you to look very professional. If you don't hear back with their decision in a week's time, email to check in. Ask them, how are they doing in the hiring process? Where are they at? It's okay to check in. You may or may not hear back from them, but again, it shows enthusiasm and shows that you're very interested in the job. In this competitive job market, employers are saying, their top 2 or 3 candidates are so close in qualifications, like match. It's like they're really hard to decide. But maybe you're the one that sends a thank you note and the others don't. Maybe you're the one that follows up in a week and they don't. And they're like, you know what? This person has shown, like post-interview, some skill sets and initiative. Maybe they might be the right person over those others that completely match, right? So you never know what's going to give you that edge to help them make a decision about you. If they have let you know that they've chosen another candidate, it's perfectly okay to ask for feedback. To help you understand the reasoning and if there are any opportunities for improvement. You may or may not hear back, but asking, it never hurts. And if you get feedback, that's great. Last but not least, I really recommend to preserve your self-worth to keep your motivation going. So this is more for yourself. Consider any rejections as redirections. Try not to take it personally. This is a journey of learning and growing. And unless you get that feedback and know why they chose somebody else, you really don't know. So let go or suspend self-doubt, judgment, deprecation, and just be like, you know what? Okay, maybe do reflection for yourself and say, where could have I improved in this interview? And then move forward, learn and move forward. Because it absolutely, if you take it personally and say, oh, I'm not good enough and all those things, or I'm too old, or whatever those thoughts or assumptions are, it could really start to demotivate you, right? And that's the last thing you want. You want to keep going and keep those applications going. Right?
I had once, I was on a hiring committee and we got an email from the one of the rejected candidates. And he was like accusing us of racism and all of that.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, they were taking it personally.
Yeah, very personally.
Right? Yeah. And so you always want to show professionalism from your application right to the after, because you never know, that person they chose may not work out. And maybe you were the second choice.
We actually chose a very person,
right?
Kind of not white.
Exactly. Yeah. You just never know that, always leave a good impression is my advice. Be grateful and take the learning. I know it, and it can be it's very stressful. I'm not saying that. But remember, you never know if that opportunity can come back. Okay. Last section. I think we're right on time. 3 keys to successful job search. Yes. Yeah.
Right, is step number 2.
Step number 2? Yeah. Are there any questions, by the way, before we move to the last section?
On the interview, for example, it's would be advisable to ask when one can expect news from their decision.
Oh, absolutely. As part of the end of the interview questions? Yes. That's a great question to ask at the end of an interview is, what are the next steps? When can I expect to hear back from you? And in my experience, they've always said, oh, okay, well, in a week's time, we're hoping to go to the next step or let everybody know. Like, it's good for you to know too. Absolutely appropriate question. Yeah. But don't let that be the only question. Ask other questions too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, great question. All right. Okay. So we've talked about some of these already, but how to go from job seeker to job offer. So key one, absolutely doing research of the market. So we'll talk a little bit about that in the next section because we've already talked about preparation and we can talk about practice, but the research is really important. Is there demand for work that I want to do? What does the labor market say? So say you have an ATS friendly resume, you're prepared for interviews and you're applying, you're tailoring your resume, you're networking, and you're not finding jobs basically that you want to do. Because maybe the labor market, there isn't a demand. So it's going to take you longer to find a job. So it's really important to align your skills and experience with what the current job market is. So there's ways to do that. And I'll talk about labor market information research briefly, but it's really important for you to help you to be successful. It's really important to understand what skills and training you already have. So we talked about assessing your skills, but also what skills and training you need, such as technology. Preparation. So we talked about know your hard, soft, and transferable skills so you can communicate them in a resume and interview, to create an ATS-friendly resume to highlight those skills and accomplishments. And if you have a LinkedIn profile, update it. If you don't have one, maybe make one. So employers, it's, again, not a mandatory thing, but employers are increasingly cross-checking LinkedIn profiles with resumes to basically screen, right? And you can also add more information on a LinkedIn profile than your resume too, like that education, all those other experiences. So it can actually help you.
They often have ask for, at least I noticed, they link to your profile when you fill those questionnaires.
That's right. They'll actually ask for your LinkedIn profile. And it actually is beneficial to put it on your resume too, in part of your content. So they do cross-check LinkedIn a lot, actually. And also, they also source candidates from LinkedIn too. If they don't post a job online, they just have recruiters kind of looking through LinkedIn profiles and key skills, and that's how and sometimes you might get somebody reaching out to you saying, hey, you have these skills. I've had that happen myself. So that could be part of your job search strategy.
Has anyone here got a job through LinkedIn?
Yeah.
I had to.
Yeah.
My wife.
Your wife got a job on LinkedIn, yeah. How about those on our virtual space? Have any of you got a job or a job offer or request for an interview on LinkedIn? Through LinkedIn?
I've just been solicited.
That's common too. Yeah, very, very common too. I forgot I have this.
So there's another one called our virtual suite.
Oh, no, that's the folks online. I'm just calling the folks in our virtual estate.
Just a comment of no, not for me.
Not for me. Okay, thank you, Brianna. But it can happen. Finally, key 3, practice and not you prepared. Practice speaking in front of a mirror or doing mock interviews with friends or family or a coach. And actually it can be able to communicate and talk about your skills. Practice really does help a lot. Get out there and network. So be visible, tap into the hidden job market. Okay, so it's really important to get yourself out behind from the computer. I tell this to all my job seekers, not just mature job seekers. But being a mature job seeker, the advantages you have is over a younger generation job seekers, you have networks, right? You have had experience, professional experience. Tap into those networks and see, are they still, do they have any information? Do they know of anybody hiring? So use your networks that you have and maybe look at building them as well. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about researching because we haven't really touched on that. And this area of research as a job search strategy tends to get missed with job seekers. But it's really important to understand what the labor market is asking for, what skills and roles are in demand. So the definition of labor market is where employers find workers and workers find jobs. It includes all the people who are working or actively looking for work. That's what the labor market means. It connects supply, so job seekers with demand, employers needing workers across various industries. And it's really about information about what skills are in demand, what industries are in demand, what roles are in demand now and in the future. So current labor market information can be found on the WorkBC website under WorkBC Research Labor Market. And you can find lots of information that's pretty current and relevant. Also, the BC government has sent out a 10-year forecast, a labor market forecast for the next 10 years as far as industries that are expected to grow here in BC in different regions as well. However, the one thing I want to, caution with this, gathering information is good, but you won't get better information than through talking to people in the field, right? And so informational interviews are really important. So if you know the job you want to get into or the industry, network, try to find some people in that industry, connect with them, ask them questions. How did you get in this industry? How did you do this? What do I need, right? So you can cross-check this information by talking to folks in the industry. That does require some networking skills for sure. But it does work and it can help. LinkedIn is a great way to do that, by the way. It's one way to connect with people outside of your network. So how LMI, so labor market information, can help you find a job? Well, it shows which industries are hiring now and in the future, helps you understand in-demand skills and qualifications, which can guide your career planning and job search strategy, provides you insight into wages, working conditions, employment trends, helps you target sectors with strong growth and opportunities, and ultimately it can help you create a strategic job search plan. It's really important to create a plan that aligns your skills and experience with what's in demand in the market. The closer you can align your skills and experience with what's in demand, the more you close the gap from unemployed to employed. Okay, so that's really important. The research is really important. And if you can create a strategic job search plan, so you find out which roles and industries are hiring, the skills that you have and experience, you can really reduce your chances of job seeker burnout, right? So if you've been applying, hundreds and hundreds, not to say, it's guaranteed, but you'll feel more empowered because you're like, okay, I know this is the direction. I know this is demand. You'll know who to talk to. There's more of a strategy rather than just, blasting your resume everywhere. So really important to do some research in the industry.
One question.
Yes.
What changes will you do or how to adapt in this labor market if you are overqualified?
Mm-hmm.
That happens. In my experience, I've been rejected more than once because I am
Overqualified.
Even when I'm looking for a job.
Yeah.
That's so.
Yeah. Great question. And I'm sure A lot of you here thought about that, maybe have experienced that. So the question was, I'm not just to reiterate for virtual folks, what would I do differently? What should you do differently if you're overqualified?
Yes, I don't show my experience, I don't show my education.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so it's really important to be honest and truthful in your applications and resumes. Some of the resume tips I share, not going back more than 10 years. The important thing is that if you have a lot of work experience and you're applying for more of an entry-level job, that absolutely can be a factor. However, this is where I suggest cover letters come in really, really, really good, because you can actually talk, if you think about what some of the, I guess, some of the concerns that employers would have with hiring somebody overqualified. You tend to think, well, it's a no-brainer. I can do the job, obviously. Why would they just want to hire me? They can save money on training. I can just do the job. So the thing is, though, if you think about their concerns, what could be one concern of hiring somebody overqualified? Leave. Exactly. As soon as the market changes and turns around and all of a sudden there's more senior level jobs, see you later, right? I think that would be probably one of the major concerns. What else?
A bit bored.
Bored, yeah, which in turn somebody might leave, right? That could happen, right?
Too specific, they can branch out.
Yeah, there's too niche. There's too much niche. And you can only do one thing. Yep. So the cover letter could help, I guess, mitigate some of those potential concerns they have, right? So that's what I recommend, that for all the job seekers I work with. Always put a cover letter, especially in a competitive job market. Because in a cover letter, you can really talk about those strengths, talk about why you want to work with the company, but address some of those barriers or challenges or gaps or anything like that, and just talk about it. Just think about from the employer's perspective and address that. And share with them in a cover letter that you're looking to work with, looking for long-term employment, share your values, share my value, my what brings me purpose and meaning is working for a company that aligns with my value. You have a value in providing exceptional customer service. I believe in that. I believe people should be supported. Like, talk about their values, how that aligns with your values. And you don't have to say, I promise you I won't leave. Right? That's not something you need to do. But just share with them why you want to work for that company and how it aligns your values with their values. That could help. Yeah. All right. Great question. All right. Okay. So this last piece here, we do have to wrap things up, is hidden job market. So in a competitive job market like we are right now, and especially as a mature job seeker, that may have some of those challenges or barriers. And now that you understand maybe some of the best practices on resumes and interviews, it really is important to understand the hidden job market, because a hidden job market refers to the job opportunities that employers are not advertising online. And that's actually happening. So, for example, when I mentioned the LinkedIn, sometimes recruiters will just go on LinkedIn and search for certain skills that they're looking for and reach out, to potential candidates. It is estimated that 80% of job vacancies are not advertised. That's from WorkBC site. So how do employers find candidates to fill the roles if they're not posting them on job boards? What are they doing first, maybe before posting them online?
Talking to their network, then
Exactly.
Doing lip service
Exactly.
advertising.
You got it. Exactly. Employers seek referrals within their networks to recruit candidates to fill roles. Why? Because the employer, if they can avoid the cost of recruiting at any way possible, it's expensive to actually recruit the new employees. They have to pay for those job boards. They have to pay for the recruiting, the train, everything. So if they can get a referral from a trusted network, which is their workforce or their business connections, they much prefer to go that way. Because they trust their network, right? And they maybe can reduce some of their recruiting costs. Not always, but sometimes. I don't know about you, but I've worked in a company where they would give bonuses to employees who refer people to roles because they really wanted their workforce to refer to people. So this is a real thing. And the important thing is to connect with these employers so you can be referred, right? That's what the hidden job market is really about. So how do you connect with the right people to get referred? Well, you can volunteer. So while you're job searching and you're in this kind of in-between stage and you have some time, maybe look at volunteering, into something that you're really passionate about, get involved in the community. Maybe see who is hiring, look at job postings, connect with those companies somehow, follow them on LinkedIn. I'm going to talk about LinkedIn a few times, see what they're doing. Maybe connect with somebody in that company and do an informational interview. Meetup.com is another good site that you can attend for events for free or low cost, meet like-minded professionals. It's also personal interest as well. Eventbrite.ca has some hiring and business networking events. So there's a ton of them that are on there right now. You may want to look at Eventbrite and save the date on those. Attend local job fairs, practice your pitch, connect with local businesses. So being referred doesn't mean you have to have a deep, long-standing relationship with an employer. It's just about that initial connection and follow up with them. So if you're attending, if you're being visible, you're showing up in the community, you're talking to different people. I've known so many job seekers that talk to somebody at their gym. This one client I had, and she was looking for a job in graphic design. She said she talked to somebody at her gym and they were looking for a graphic design contractor. And she's like, I just finished this course. I'm really interested. I'm looking to build my portfolio. He's like, sure, here, I'll connect you with the person who's hiring. And she got the contract. The employer didn't have to do any posting or anything like that because that person was referred.
Is there any way or any kind of workshop or anywhere like any tips, tricks about the what they used to call elevator pitch? Like that you have like a quick snap something when you meet someone at, I don't know, job fair.
Oh, absolutely. So, there's lots of resources online on how to build an elevator pitch. We do talk about that in our workshops here. But I would say, find a format online, but the learning really is in the practicing, right? Yeah. And so, we do go through that in some of our workshops too, but very important is that practice piece, your elevator pitch. Yeah. Oh, a tip here too, research companies that you would like to work for. And if you kind of make a list of companies that might be of your interest, check their career pages, see what they're hiring for. And this is where I was saying connect with them, talk about an informational interview. Even if they're not hiring for any position you're interested in or can apply for, they may have something in the future. Right. So I'm really all about connecting with a business community in many different ways. It doesn't have to be just through LinkedIn. All right. Thank you we're going a little over time, but thank you for your patience. We're just going to wrap things up. So job search success starts here. Tips to get ahead and land that job. Build your skills. Take initiative for lifelong learning. Create a standout resume and prepare for interviews. Keep up on labor market trends. Be comfortable with technology. Show that you know how to use devices. Know yourself, your passions, your interests, and communicate them confidently. Do that values assessment. Get yourself involved in the business community to build your professional network. So that's all you have to do. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. That's it for the workshop. Up next, we have Shannon Coleman, our HR director, who will talk a little bit more about tips and strategies from the employer point of view. And so we'll go into that now, and then I'll do a quick overview of our services after. Sound good? All right, let me go through this. Nice, great. There we go. Okay.
All right, so as Rosanna said, I work in our HR, our People and Culture department, as it's called these days. So I just wanted to share some insights from my 10 years of experience in this field, including recruitment, some of the observations that I've found, and some tips that you can take away with you today. All right. So I know that Rosanna will have touched on resumes in this presentation. But I want to talk about some common themes that come up. So dates of employment would be one of them. So dates of employment really are valued by employers because they do give an indication of your level of experience and your level of knowledge. I understand there can be some concerns about bias if we're showing our dates of employment. And I think this presentation mentioned going back sort of 10 years. I would say for some positions, going back longer is okay. For example, if I was hiring for an executive director and they had 20 years of experience at a really high level, I'd probably want to see that full 20 years. If someone had 20 years of experience, but only 10 years was relevant to what they're applying for, probably don't need that other 10 on there. So it's kind of a case-by-case situation. But dates of employment generally are valued by employers. In terms of education, you only need to list your highest education. You don't need to include high school if you have, for example, a college degree. You don't need to put the date of the education if you're not comfortable, but I would recommend putting the program length just to demonstrate the duration, because that will indicate whether you completed the program or just how long you were taking those courses. So I've put an example here. It could be Bachelor's of Education, UVic, a 4-year program. Example. So that way it shows the employer, okay, they've completed this program, and we're not necessarily concerned about what it is per se. Volunteering experience is very much relevant. I think of my mother in this scenario. My mom was a midwife for 10 years and then was a stay-at-home mom of 5 kids, so very busy. But she kept busy during that time with lots of volunteering. She did first aid for our sports group. She wrote reports for our local paper. She helped my dad with his medical practice. And if she had decided that she wanted to go to full back to paid work, all those volunteering activities would have been great on her resume if you wanted to see that. With resumes, there's really no one size fits all anymore. We've really branched out from the typical structure that used to be used. We do have some really great resume workshops at WorkLink, which go into depth on types of resume format. But what I'd say is if you've had a job with one employer, you could maybe consider using a functional resume, which is where you're putting a lot more focus on your skills rather than your experience. Or if you've worked in really similar roles your entire career, there's nothing that irks an employer more. Well, one of the things than seeing a lot of repetition on a resume, duties repeated one after the other, because it's just a waste of space. So a functional resume allows you to sort of encapsulate all that experience in a more concise format. There's also hybrid formats, which are a mix of showcasing our skills and experience. So these are quite popular. This is the format that I use personally, and a lot of folks are using that format these days. So this is great if you've had volunteer experience, more so than, say, paid experience, because it gives you still a chance to go into detail on what those volunteer duties involved. It's also a good option if you've had different roles with one employer. So maybe you started working in a kitchen, and then you went into the front of house and so on, or then you moved into management. So that can be a great format for that kind of situation. Also really good to note is you don't have to have everything in the same order. So a chronological resume, that's where we have the experience with the most recent at the top. We don't have to do that. So say you worked for 10 years as a teacher, and then you maybe took a career break, and then you maybe started working in retail, and you kind of ended up staying in retail for a few years. And now you think, I really want to get back to teaching. You can adjust your resume so that your teaching experience is shown first. So that could be under a relevant experience section. And then you can have an additional experience section showing the more recent experience. That way, the employer's going to see, okay, they've done teaching, they know what to do, might need some retraining on certain things, but they understand the fundamentals of being a teacher. Sometimes with these resumes, we're kind of trying to play a bit of psychology with the employer, and sometimes just seeing that relevant experience first can really help make a good first impression. So it used to be the case that in interviews, employers would ask all these personal questions. That's never really been okay, but especially not these days. We have a lot more protections in place for workers, which is great. So if you're ever asked questions like, how old are you? Where were you born? Do you have kids? You're married? When are you planning to retire? Those aren't appropriate questions, and you don't have to answer. So if you are asked those questions, it's a red flag, I'd say. And you're completely entitled to say, I prefer not to answer that question. Likewise, I encourage you not to even disclose any of these things, just because of what we call unconscious biases. So all of us as humans have unconscious biases, those that we're not aware of. So let's say you mention, oh, I recently became a grandmother, I'm really excited. Potentially there's an employer there that's going to think, oh, are they going to be called on for childcare duties? They're not going to be able to show up to work and so on. So little potential biases that can occur, not always, but sometimes. So it's best just to play it safe and not disclose any personal information. Likewise, as interviewees, we can't ask these questions either to the interviewer. I have been asked some of these questions myself. So, some people won't be offended, but it's just, as a courtesy, we shouldn't be asking those questions. And if you get hired and you feel comfortable talking about that with your coworkers, sure, you can talk about your family, but not doing the interview. Let's just keep focused on our experience and skills in that setting. Now, there's some times where we have what we call a bona fide occupational requirement in a role. And this is where there's something that is integral to the job, whether it's a specific duty or a particular working condition, like maybe you have to work at night or on the water or whatever it might be. So it is reasonable for employers to ask questions just to assess whether you can do those fundamental things. So for example, if a job posting says you'll occasionally need to walk up and down the stairs, it is reasonable for that employer to say, are you comfortable doing this, or would you require any accommodations to perform the physical elements of this role? What they shouldn't be asking is something like, do you have a disability? That would mean you can't do that. And that's because as an employer, we're not really supposed to know what disability someone has. We can know the prognosis, so we can know any limitations someone has. For example, I can't lift a certain amount of weight, or I can't stand for more than a certain period, but we can't know what that actual disability is. So if an employer were to ask you this question, it's getting a little bit invasive, but there are other ways they can assess if you can meet the fundamental requirement of that role. Another example, they might ask, it's a bona fide requirement of this role that you can operate a vehicle safely at all times of the day. Do you have any concerns about being able to do this? Or if hired, would you be able to provide a full clean license? Those are acceptable questions to ask because it's an integral part of the role. But otherwise, any personal questions relating to your identity, we shouldn't be asking those as employers. So in this presentation, I've been told that having questions prepared is important. Absolutely. And these are some questions that you could ask if you're wanting to get a sense of how inclusive the workplace will be. So what does the training process look like, or what do the first day of the job look like even? How do you support good work-life balance? That's something that employers are taking a lot more seriously these days. It's not the case where you're expected to burn yourself out. We actually want people to enjoy their free time, enjoy their weekends. What do you do to maintain a workplace that's inclusive of all generations? That could be a great question to ask. How does the team collaborate and exchange knowledge? So in other words, how will I have a chance to share what I know with people that maybe haven't worked in this field as I have? Do you offer any training to help employees develop or refresh certain skills or knowledge? That's another great question to ask. Again, workplaces these days are really big on that continuous learning, continuous professional development piece. So I want to share two sort of areas that I've personally observed common sort of mistakes that folks can make in interviews. And the first one is really complacency. So this is where you get someone who's maybe got 20, 30 years of experience, and they're kind of relying on that to show why they should get hired. However, a lot of employers these days, the interview isn't so much just a quick sit-down conversation. It's structured, sometimes panel interview with questions in place. It's often using points to assess candidates, and that's how we make our decision. So what we're really looking for is specific examples. Sometimes they're referred to as star or car. Basically, they both mean the same thing. You're giving a specific situation and telling the employer how you addressed the challenge that came up and what the outcome was. So we want to avoid the temptation to say things like, oh, I've done this loads of times, or oh, I do that every day. That's pretty minimal effort, and the employer is going to want to see a bit more effort than that. We just have to think we're in a competitive pool. We need to really prove ourselves. We can't just rely on the resume. We've still got to really earn that job just because we are being objectively measured against other candidates. And then the other one is attitude. Ageism, of course, a lot of mature workers experience it, but it does also go both ways, right? Younger people can also experience age discrimination. So comments people have sometimes made, oh, that was probably before you were born. I used to do your job back in the day. Oh, the younger generation don't have that work ethic that we had. Even if those are your beliefs, the interview is not the time to be communicating them. They might be meant completely harmless. They might be meant as a bit of a joke, but they can leave a bit of a bad impression. They might make the employer concerned that maybe you're not going to be a supportive team player, for example. So those are two sort of key areas where I've sometimes noticed mistakes in those areas. So just little things to take away from today's session. And I'd say as well, just sort of going in, not looking for those red flags, being aware of potential red flags that might come up, but being optimistic and not seeking them out, because there are some really great employers out there who value diversity and want to have various generations in the workforce because they see value in it. Accommodations. Has anybody heard of this term before? Yeah, so this is relating to human rights and employment equity. So it's about making reasonable adjustments that will allow people to participate fully in the workplace, whether that's due to their family status, so say if they have kids, or their age, or having a disability, for example. So employers have a duty to accommodate. You might have heard that term before. And accommodations could be various things. It could be changing your job duties. So maybe someone's worked in a kitchen for 20 years, they've got carpal tunnel, and they can't lift a certain amount of weight. So that would be adjusting the job duties so they're not going to lift more than, say, 5 pounds. Changing the work schedule. So that could look like, I've got grandkids that I need to help pick up. Can I adjust my end time to by 30 minutes? Workplace modifications or assistive equipment. So that could be things like bringing in special ergonomic chairs for someone, or you providing certain mice that will help them with any repetitive strain injuries in their hands, things like that. The exception to an accommodation would be if there's that bona fide occupational requirement, that old mouthful, B4 as it's shortly known. That's when something is so integral that we can't provide accommodations. So if you're driving a taxi, you have to be able to see, for example. We can't make any exception there. That would be pretty dangerous. So you can request accommodations before the interview. So for example, you could request, can I get those interview questions in advance? Is that possible? I have a bit of a hard time with stairs. Can you confirm if the interview can be in a place that's accessible? Whatever it might be. You can certainly request them in advance. And you can also request them in the job as well. In fact, if we need an accommodation, we have a duty to inform the employer of that need. The employer also has a duty to inquire if they think we might need an accommodation, but as the employer, you want to make your needs known to that employer. Now, in terms of when to request accommodations, I'd say it depends on how big your request is and how sort of integral the existing setup is to the role. So, for example, if the job posting says that hours are 8:30 to 4:30, but we can be quite flexible, after you get an offer, I'd say it's fair for you to say, I noticed that the hours are flexible. Would you be okay if I started at 9 a.m. and finished at 4, for example? But if the accommodation is something that you're going to need to do the entire job and all functions, and it's going to maybe cost some money, that is something I would recommend mentioning in the interview. I think that's in everybody's best interest because it means that the employer has time to explore what they can offer. It also means that you're not in that situation where you're really excited to get this job offer and then you put in your request and then you're told, I'm sorry, it's going to be too expensive for us to bring in this change for you, and then the offer gets rescinded. That would be really demoralizing. So for a really big accommodation, it is best, I'd say, to let the employer know in advance. You can't be discriminated against because of requesting an accommodation. So if you feel like the sole reason you don't get the job is because of, say, some sort of disability that you've disclosed, then you do have rights to pursue. But I think, yeah, for a bigger accommodation, that communication piece is really key. And I think, if anything, employers probably value it more because it shows that you are taking the initiative to communicate your needs and just be upfront and transparent. And that shows that, you know, you're a trustworthy person who wants to cooperate and wants to sort of be organized so you can do your best, the employer from day one. Okay, so that's all I had to say there. Were there any questions or things that have come up and experiences that you maybe wanted to share? Okay, great. All right. Well, I will take
I
it
know
back
that was
to,
a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, I know that was a long. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. All right. So it's really good to hear from, sorry, it's People and Culture Director.
Oh,
I say HR faster.
Thank
Thank you so much. And kind of share a little bit more tips, right? I really liked that tip about the relevant skills sections. You can separate your work experience to highlight your relevant skills, even if it's older than 10 years or older. That's a really good tip. So just the last few minutes here, I really hope that all of you received one takeaway, one or two takeaways. But I do like to talk about, just going back to a little bit about WorkLink here and our services. Just a quick overview before we end the workshop today. So WorkLink, yeah.
Is it okay if I have it right? Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm already trying.
So. Yeah. Oh, yes. No problem. Thank you for coming. And that goes for anybody. If you have to leave, I know we're running right at the end here. Please do so. No worries.
It's just about.
This is just about our services here.
But I think we know this.
Okay. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Sure.
So WorkLink Employment Society has been around since 1978. And sometimes folks maybe get confused with, are we WorkBC? Are we a government agency? No, we are a nonprofit organization that receives funding from WorkBC services. So WorkBC is a government body, but we are not government workers. We work for WorkLink. So that's the main difference. We also operate under WorkLink, our START program, which is our youth employment program. So for youth between the ages of 16 and 30 who have some barriers or challenges to accessing employment skills and employment placement, it's a wonderful program that we offer for our youth here. So anyone can drop into our resource center, and that is the computer room across from the front desk there with all the computers. You don't have to be a client of ours. During our office hours, you can drop in anytime to do your resume, cover letter, maybe practice interview skills. There are some webinars on our computers that you can do some self-directed learning to support your job search efforts and activities. We can provide over-the-shoulder assistance, so meaning our front desk staff, when available, they'll be able to answer questions you may have about your resume, about job applications, or any sorts of other applications you may be looking at. But again, it really depends on their availability and if they're supporting other clients. But you can absolutely ask them for support as well. If you need support with printing as well, you can print up to 10 copies for resumes if you need to, as well through our resource center. Anything to do with job search activity, we can support there. We do have 2 streams of services here. We have a self-serve stream, which is offers clients the information, tools, resources they need to independently conduct job search, plan your careers, assess assessments and research the labor market, or any other employment-related activities. So that basically is using the resource room, as I mentioned. We also have services for clients that choose to be a case-managed client. So meaning that you will actually work with an employment advisor one-on-one to develop individualized action plans, to receive ongoing support. You can attend our workshops. So you do need to be a case-managed client to attend our workshops. And as an advisor would work with you to support you with where you are right now and helping you move forward towards your employment goals. Some reasons why it's beneficial to become a case managed client. Well, you would have access to all these program services. So as I mentioned, workshops, career planning, exploration, resume, cover letter support, skills training, education for those upskilling, to fill those gaps for eligible clients. And if you decide to become a case managed client, you can talk to your advisor about eligibility and what can be offered. Support for a diverse group. So if you, for instance, are a person that needs accommodation, like Shannon was saying, we can support you as far as coaching and how to disclose disabilities, how to ask for accommodations. The one thing we don't do is we don't have placement support. So we don't place people in jobs, but we can support you in coaching on how to find inclusive employers. We also have a wage subsidy program, which if you are newer to an industry and perhaps you would like to get an opportunity into a new industry or a role, our wage subsidy program offers employers wage subsidy to hire you. So again, that's a program in itself, but there's opportunity to maybe explore that with your advisor, which could be an incentive for employers to hire you if they know that part of your wage will be subsidized. For eligible clients, we have the self-employment program. So if you've thought about or considered self-employment as a career path or employment stream, you can talk to your advisor about that. And access to financial supports. So here at WorkLink, we are here to support, to mitigate, reduce barriers to employment. So if you need work clothing, interview clothes, work boots, tools, transportation support, bus pass, fuel, childcare supports, we potentially can provide that financial support to reduce the barrier to finding employment and also keeping employment. So if you have a job that we want to celebrate with you, Please let us know if you're a case managed client and if you need some supports as far as supplies or clothing. You can let us know and we can potentially support you with that. If you choose to become a case managed client, we do ask that you're active in participating in our appointments, attending workshops, and being proactive with your action plans. So meaning really be proactive part. This is a collaboration. We're not here to, we're here to guide you, but not do for you. So it's really important. Our successful clients are constantly communicating with us, and they're, and they're letting us know if they can't make an appointment. We understand with adults, we have lots of competing obligations. Just let us know, but do your best to show up and be here and participate. And also be honest to communicate your goals, your challenges, and your progress. And let us know what's been happening, what's been working, what's not working, so we know how to guide you and support you moving forward. And absolutely, timely updates on job applications, what's happening with your work search, communicate with us and your advisor about your employment status or any changes to your job search journey. So if you have, for instance, a medical condition that's come up, let us know. And we can put a pause, on the services until you're ready to go back, to look for work. So communication is absolutely key. Working with your employment advisor, we will help you, like I said, develop that individualized action plan to help you meet your employment goals. Everything you share with us is absolutely confidential and treated with respect. We provide you guidance and resources to overcome employment barriers during job search phase. So if there are any financial supports that we're not able to provide or resources, we can support you in finding those resources in the community. Feedback. Your employment advisor will give you honest, constructive feedback to help you improve and to help you move forward to the best of our ability. And ultimately, we're here to walk with you on this journey and support you and encourage you to keep going. And especially once you've found employment, to provide ongoing support through the first year of employment, because that's where sometimes it can be the most precarious. So our employment advisor, being a case managed client, you get that one-on-one support. And we talk about, I'll talk about that in a moment here, actually. Oh, that was the last piece. But some of the commonly asked questions we have is, well, how often do I need to meet with my employment advisor as a client? Well, really, whatever works with your schedule and whatever works for you. We have clients that like to check in with us weekly, bi-weekly, once a month. However, the recommendation is to, you can check in weekly, their emails, by phone, but meeting with your advisor every 2 to 3 weeks, just to see how things are going, to help you with resume, cover letter, review a job search, or maybe there's a resource that you're needing that will help you, would be very beneficial. Attending our workshops in the meantime, in between time that you meet with your advisor, is really beneficial too. You get to network with other people, meet other people, and also learn these skills that will help you to be independent in your job search and know how to be successful. So that's it. That is overview of our services in a real quick way. If you wanted to attend our orientation, which we go a little bit deeper into and more information about our services, please see our front desk staff and you can get scheduled for our next available orientation.
And how does one becomes a client?
The first step is to attend orientation. And then, yes, and then you'll get a bit more of an overview. And then if you would like to move forward, then you would meet an employment advisor and we would do an intake questionnaire with you and discuss the supports you're looking for, discuss eligibility. So WorkBC, there are some eligibility requirements. So we discuss that in the, meeting after the orientation, and then decide in partnership if you would like to become a case managed client if you're eligible. And then follow-up meeting would be scheduled after that. So first step would be the orientation. Yeah, and you can contact our front desk for that by phone. If you're not in person here, of course, you can also call our main line and get scheduled. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody. I know we went overtime. Appreciate you waiting. And I hope you learned some things today, and I hope you have a great day. And hope we'll see you again here again in the future. Thank you. Bye, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you. Oh, no, I'm good. Thank you. Yeah, I'll get my IT person to help me. Thank you for offering. Thank you for coming. I appreciate your questions and your feedback. Yeah.
Thank you.
Take care. Good night.